Welcome on into the Wolverine.com podcast. Clayton Sayfie here with Chris Balas and Anthony Broome. I am live from a random ballroom that I may get thrown out of at some point. I just snuck in here, so we'll figure that out later. But we are here covering the Orange Bowl College Football Playoff, Michigan against Georgia on Friday night, New Year's Eve, 7:30 p.m., ESPN. For some of the marbles, they could play for all the marbles on January 10th if they get past the Bulldogs to play either Alabama or Georgia. Fellas, we are brought to you by Manscaped. And, I apologize to anyone outside of this room that can hear me, but brace yourselves. Winter is coming. What the writers of Game of Thrones didn't want to tell you is that Bran was actually in a wheelchair because he didn't trim his balls with Manscaped. Poor guy thought it was okay to trim his balls with a traditional razor or hair trimmer. Not sure what you want as a gift for the holidays. Well, Manscaped is the ultimate gift, and they're here to change the men's grooming game, and you can get 20% off plus free shipping if you use the code 20GoBlue at manscaped.com. It reminds me that Bran won Game of Thrones, and I'm still a little disappointed about that, but I'm not disappointed about the product we have with Manscaped, 20GoBlue, 20% off and free shipping. Chris, I know you're a big fan.
Bran, I saw him get pushed out the window, so I don't know if that part's true, but I do know that the products work, and they work really, really well. So 100% satisfied. Every time I get a package from them, man, I'm excited. It's like, what's it going to be? Even the shampoo and conditioner and stuff is outstanding. Great smell. So, I'm very pleased with the result on my balls.
There you go. And I think Anthony agrees there with that as well. And, so 20% off plus free shipping, manscaped.com, our favorite brand. I mean, it is a great product. We joke about it because I think they're trying to screw with us with some of these ad reads, but
I agree.
They've been working. And I got a couple DMs even last week after we did one with people saying that, man, you guys joke around about it, but it's a good product, and it
really is
using the promo code. So go and do that right now. But fellas, we got some football to talk about, quite a bit of football to talk about. And Chris, let's start with the Dax Hill news. That he did not travel with the team down to Miami. We don't know for a fact, but, it seems like what we're hearing, COVID type of thing here, and could make it down before the game. Just like we saw with George Pickens of Georgia, their star wide receiver who's getting healthier and healthier off of ACL as well here at the end of the year. And then JT Daniels, their backup quarterback, who, talking to Georgia guys, seems like most of the fans want him to start. But they came down late after the team. Seems like that could be a possibility here for Dax Hill as well.
Seems like a good possibility, to be honest with you. It wouldn't surprise me if we were on a plane right now or even here at this point, because that sounds to me what the plan is going to be, taking every necessary precaution for different reasons. We aren't going to get into details about COVID or about kids' personal welfare when it comes to their health, but we can say that this is the likely outcome is that Dax Hill is down here sooner than later and plays. They will get him here. Somebody on our message board said, yeah, they're going to, as long as they don't fly him Spirit and they can get him here on time. I can tell you that it's not just Spirit, guys. It's everybody. It was United for me on Sunday. I didn't get out till Monday, but the fact is that they have ways of getting him down here without putting him on a plane like that, and he will be here from what we understand. So that's good news for Michigan. They need him, man. You look at that Bowers kid, that tight end, and not just him, but the wide receivers. He's probably their best cover guy, although DJ Turner's starting to state a case for that. But he's the guy that is versatile enough to cover the tight end, to cover the receivers, an outstanding blitzer. So they absolutely need him to win this game. And I'm not saying they can't win it without him, but it would certainly help their chances if he's here, and it sounds like he will be.
Yeah, Anthony, you're in a similar spot, it seems like. I mean, you were supposed to be down here as well, so we feel terrible that, an illness has kept you out as well. But I guess you can talk about that real quick if you have anything to say. And then Dax Hill's impact as well. I mean, if he were to not be with this team in play, it would be a huge impact. And even him missing practice time, I think, is kind of a big storyline as well because, you had a month off. You could be a little rusty. And having that time with your team, acclimating to the weather, I think is huge.
Yeah, I mean, if we learned anything from last year is that, and mind you, Michigan's much further along in the process, but you can't – it's really hard to install what your defense is going to be and get up to speed on a game plan over Zoom and over virtual type of stuff. So, you hope that everything's trending the right way with him and he's able to make it down with the Michigan bat plane, so to speak, just drop in and come get him wherever. I won't be there. I also fell victim to the cocoa over the holidays, so I will be working remotely throughout the week. Super upset, super kind of depressed about that. Could have used a little extra vitamin D, especially right now, since my immune system is apparently not where it's supposed to be. But it'll all be worth it if we're talking about a game that happens on January 10th. So sending all of my positive energy down there with me. But as far as Dax Hill goes, yeah, I mean, that's a guy they have to have out there. We're at a point in the year where these are, if it was a bowl opt-out and they were playing in the Citrus Bowl or something, that's one thing. But they need all hands on deck. This is a playoff game. This is for Clayton, like you said, not all the marbles, but a good chunk of the marbles. It's for at least a quarter of the marbles, if you want to do math with it. But yeah, we'll see what happens with him. It seems like the buzz coming out of Miami is that pretty healthy otherwise. Practices have been going well. So other than that, we'll see if he can come off the plane like Michael Jordan at the end of Space Jam before this game. But I still seems like it's been a pretty productive week so far down there.
Yeah, and they locked us out of practices, but sending us some footage, and from the talk, it has gone well. And let's talk about some of what we've heard from both offensive coordinator Josh Gaddis, D coordinator Mike McDonald, and a slew of players that we've been able to talk to this week so far. And the thing that stands out to me the most is, in what everyone's talking about, is the Michigan offense against the Georgia defense that is generationally good and all this stuff. And I know they got exploited a little bit against Alabama, but the front seven is legit. And as Josh Gaddis called it, it's going to be a train wreck on the interior with Michigan trying to run the ball with Hassan Haskins inside. They're going to try to, pop the edges and even up the middle at times with Blake Corum and get to the edge with Donovan Edwards. Man, I think Michigan is going to have to hit on some big plays if they're going to, win this game, if they're going to get to 21, 24, whatever points that it might take to win. But I think they got some playmakers to do it. But, Chris, that train wreck, I think, is going to be something to watch, too. This Michigan offensive line, not shy of confidence, but it's a tall task.
And they were talking about that today, right? And they said, yeah, we don't know all about these guys. I read it in your article, and they were saying we are well aware of their reputation. But let's be honest here. It's not like these guys were going against crappy players the last two games. You look at Iowa's defense, you look at Ohio State's athletes. Michigan put up 84 points. People don't put up 42 points on Iowa and move them around like that. Let's be honest. It was a fantastic showing, and I'm sure that Georgia's better than they are. It's clearly they have better athletes. At the same time, they found ways to get 211 yards against an Iowa team that I think was giving up maybe 100 yards rushing a game or something like that. It wasn't very much. I think they were 14th. And it doesn't all have to be in between the tackles. That's the thing. They found ways to get to the edges. They had the one big run with Blake Corum. If you run guys out of different tendencies, there are usually you have plays. Okay, if you're in this formation, a running back's going to run, one of two or three plays. They can do some things with Blake Corum where it doesn't have to be a trick play, but out of tendency where you can get him in the open field and he can do some things. So I agree with you. They're going to have to hit on a couple of those big ones. There will be a trick play or two. I guarantee it. Maybe not just the flea flicker, which they've had great success with this year, by the way. But if you can hit one of those and get an easy 7 that way, then you're going to have a better shot, because this is going to be a lower scoring game, guys, in my opinion. This is going to be more like Michigan, Penn State, AB, and Clayton than it was Michigan, Ohio State, where they're just pounding them, like Hassan Haskins playing Tamunga Biaka Batuka in that role. It's not going to be that way, but they can move the ball on these guys. I don't think there's any question about it, and should be great. Should be a heavyweight fight, as Gaddis said, and I can't wait to watch it, man. It's hard to believe we still have 2 days to wait.
Yeah, it's been kind of almost a month since they played a football game, and yet it seems like it was just yesterday that we were, making the drive back from Indianapolis and hearing the playoff selection. I'm with you, Chris. I mean, I've been saying it throughout since they announced the matchup. This has 21-17, 20-16, 24-20. That has that written all over it. The margin of error in a game like this is going to be super slim, because I don't think either team's going to score a lot. When I see Georgia I believe they're still a 7.5 point favorite. That seems big to me, only because I think Michigan holds up with them anyways, because of what they did to a team like Ohio State and how they beat up on a team like Iowa. But I don't think either team's going to score enough to win by that. I'll call that a wide margin in the type of game I expect this to be. So, Georgia's got talented players on offense as well. We know that, but it does seem like Michigan has a little bit more. It seems like there's a little bit more they can do, at least in terms of creatively play calling, some of the trick plays. We've seen teams hold them to 120, 150 yards rushing this year, but they've been able to run the ball well enough to where they can open things up a little more with either throwing the ball down the field or getting the ball out to a guy in space like an AJ Henning, like pick your poison. That's kind of what it's turned into here. So again, I think it's more than a puncher's chance for Michigan. I really do think this game is 50-50. I think that turnovers are obviously going to be huge. Keeping the quarterback clean is going to be huge as well. I don't know if I like the word train wreck to describe it, because that, to me, that suggests that something could go terribly wrong. But it's one of those, unstoppable force versus an immovable object when it comes to offensive line versus defensive line on both sides of the ball, really. So if you're a fan of that old school smash mouth style of football, I think all the points are going to be scored in the early game. That's all I'll say about that. I think it's going to be a throwback game on Friday night.
And let's be honest, the fact that Michigan's defensive line is considered kind of a strength, the way that Mozzie Smith and Chris Hunton have really risen up this year, is one of the big reasons we're talking about this game, guys, because that was a huge concern going into the season. Those guys have stepped up. Chris Hinton had an up and down spring. Mike McDonald said as much. And Mozzie Smith had to be that guy that's, but you'd like a little more depth there. The fact that these guys stayed healthy, though, and played as well as they did. Chris Hinton was banged up a little bit heading into that Ohio State game. He's feeling really good now. Really gives you a pretty good feeling about Michigan's line play in this game.
Yeah, and I think a way to describe this game would be man's inhumanity to man. That's the game of football. It's going to be very, very physical game, and guys trying to not actually kill each other out there. But, it is going to be that type of football game between two teams that resemble each other in a lot of different ways. But you guys both said it. It's like the Penn State game, I think, is something that is interesting to look at as a formula. And not that Michigan wants to win this way. They'd much rather win by 17 points and going away. But the fact that they didn't move the ball consistently in that game, right? They crossed the 50 just a handful of times, and they got into the red zone, I think, just twice or three times. But what they did was hit on a couple big plays, including the big one late. They, capitalized when they did get in the red zone, scoring those touchdowns instead of settling for field goals. And also they had help from James Franklin, doing a fake. But, you have to capitalize on your opportunities. Penn State didn't do that. Michigan did. Michigan's here in the college football playoff. So when you think about how it could come down to the wire, it could be that type of game. And I said it on, I think, last week's show or whatever. I trust the Michigan quarterbacks to make the plays at the end, I think, more than Georgia's. But flipping to that side of the ball, the matchup that no one's really talking about, Chris, you mentioned with Dax Hill, with Brock Bowers, their tight end, All-American, freshman, SEC newcomer of the year and all that. He is dynamic. He's fast. He's got great catch radius. He's got 300 more yards than any other receiver on the team. So they like to go to him a lot, and I think Michigan's going to have to mix it up on how they're going to play him. But I guess what kind of concerns do you have maybe with this Michigan defense against the Georgia offense? It's been pretty good, but nothing crazy scary all season. And where do you like Michigan's chances as well?
Yeah, first of all, they got to stop the run. And you were talking to Palmer Toms today, who runs the Georgia On3 site, and he said the same thing. It's not an overwhelming running attack, but there are times that Michigan's hasn't been overwhelming, but there have been times that it has. And I think one of those games, Stetson Bennett threw for 73 yards, and it reminds me of Cade McNamara throwing for 70 against Washington.
So many parallels. Yeah.
Exactly, it was amazing. And when he said 73 yards, that's crazy. And I thought, well, thinking back to that Washington game, they were running the ball extremely well. So that's going to be critical. Georgia has a good offensive line. Michigan's got to get home. I was looking today. Georgia has allowed 11 sacks all year. Michigan's offensive line allowed 10. Georgia's has only allowed 11. And so those defensive ends are going to have their work cut out for them. These guys are really good. This is a good offensive line protecting the quarterback. As Clayton said, though, AB, Stetson Bennett, when he's pressured, what was it, 30% or something like that?
Yeah, so when Stetson Bennett's under pressure, which doesn't happen a ton, as you mentioned, their offensive line's been very good. 24% of his dropbacks, he's pressured. But when he is, 30% completion percentage and 5 yards per attempt, or it might be 4 point something. So very erratic. And talking to Palmer Thoms as well, he said, you're right. He's a mobile guy, so he can get out of the pocket. But when he does have a guy in his face and he's trying to throw, he's pretty erratic. You saw the two picks against Alabama as an example.
You can't let them out. And once you get there, it reminds me of some of the bowl games that Michigan played in where they were overwhelmed by West Coast teams. Washington in 1992 Rose Bowl, USC with John Navarre, even with Elvis Gerback at times against Washington, as I mentioned. If you get uncomfortable early and get the quarterback uncomfortable early, then you could be in for a long day offensively. So that's going to be critical, in my opinion. And the same for Michigan. The good thing about Cade McNamara is when he's pressured, he knows what to do with the ball for the most part. He's not throwing it into traffic. He's maybe throwing it away. It looks bad, but it's the right play. So, but what they can't do, guys, is abandon the running game if it's not working early and ask Cade McNamara to beat them or to win the game for them. There are going to be throws that he has to make, and they're going to have to be balanced on offense, but you can't abandon. This is not Tom Brady against Alabama in the 2000 Orange Bowl where you can ask him to win a game for you, in my opinion, especially against this defense. They're going to have to be able to run the ball a little bit.
Yeah, you're going to have to be able to run the football. At least, like I said before, at least be efficient with it.
Yep.
The one thing I'll say, I do think that the pass rush getting cranked up, to me, that's obviously an advantage Michigan. And Georgia has an advantage there too with how talented they are. But I just think that when you look at, you talked about those numbers with Stetson Bennett there. Things kind of break down when he's not comfortable. Whereas I think Michigan can use, if they want to use the quick passing game or the screen game or some kind of trick play to keep, just at least slow down Georgia a little bit. I think they're a little more equipped to do that than maybe the Georgia offense is. Just in watching how Michigan's called a lot of their games, especially down the stretch here. I hesitate to say it's an offense that can't be slowed down, but if Michigan's just able to they don't mind going the hard way. They won't get frustrated if they have to put together a 16 or 17 play drive. And Georgia's like that too, but I do think that over the course of a game, I think that style of play probably favors Michigan just because, you look at a guy like Hassan Haskins, the game, it seems like the more they hammer him late in games, the stronger he gets. He's one of those type of backs. And then you have a guy where like a Blake Corum, for example, and even Donovan Edwards to a certain extent, if he has a little bit of daylight somewhere, he's going to, dust the back two levels of your defense. So I really do think this is probably going to come down to it's going to have to be one of the better games. And Josh Gaddis has called a lot of good games over the last month or so. It's going to come down to one of the better coached and better game plans that they've put together as a staff. And you would think, given a month to do it and put it all together, because I know they've only practiced for a handful of weeks here, but I'm sure Georgia has been high on their minds, even while these guys were on their recruiting trail, whatever it was, 3 or 4 weeks ago. You would think that they'd have plenty of time to put a game plan together that they feel pretty good about. So there's going to be some rust for both teams to shake off. I certainly think there's going to be a little bit of a mental aspect to it as well. With let's be honest. The last time that Georgia played a football game was a pretty humbling defeat at the hands of one of their rivals with a championship on the line. And we've seen, I know they're in the playoff, but we've seen teams kind of lose themselves after that before. Think of all the losses that Michigan has had to Ohio State. They go and play the New Year's Six, and things get a little shaky after that. It's the playoffs, so you don't have opt-outs or injuries or things like that. But if there's any doubt in that Georgia team at all, I think that Michigan might even have a chance to win this somewhat comfortably. But I do expect, like I said, a pretty close and tight game throughout.
I do think Michigan's being overlooked a little bit. And given how well they played, guys, in the last 3 games of the year, averaged 47.5 points per game. Now, Maryland was in there, obviously, too, right? But, Ohio State and Iowa, what they did to them and dismantling them was impressive, flat out, no way around it. So it's like Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan till they get punched in the mouth. So it's going to be the same way for both teams, and it's going to be one of those games that the preparation is going to be huge. And I think Michigan has taken this very seriously. Everything we've heard, not just from the coaches, not just coach speak, guys, but everything we've heard is these guys are down here to win. They're having a little bit of fun. You see them on the beach a little bit. AJ Henning's Gus Johnson impersonation was fantastic. If you've missed it, have you seen it, AB?
I did see that. It was outstanding. He's got a future in this business.
He does. Yeah. But they're having a little bit of fun, but more than anything, those guys are planning. They're planning on being in Indianapolis. And that's what it takes, guys, that kind of confidence to win a game like this.
Yeah, you're right about the punch in the face thing. And I think that's why it's so important for Michigan to get off to a fast start against this Georgia team, kind of like they did against Iowa. I know the first drive didn't go as planned, but then you hit the big Corum run. You get the Donovan Edwards pass, beautiful, dime thrown by Donovan Edwards, and you kind of, they were able to pull some things out of the hat there and get ahead. And Iowa's a team. Now, Georgia has more offensive firepower, certainly, than Iowa, but they're a team as well. Talking to Palmer Thomas, he said, man, if they get down, you just don't have a ton of confidence. Stetson Bennett will start pressing. They won't be able to lean on their run game, which has been pretty good this year, but not like a vintage Georgia run game when you think of all the great running backs that have come through there. So punch them in the face early, I think, is going to be a key for Michigan. If you get up 7-0, if you get up 10-0 or something like that, you can start playing your game a little bit more and try to put some pressure there. Let Aiden Hutchinson potentially and David Ajabo, pin their ears back. And that's kind of the game that you want to play is, get ahead, stay ahead, and, take your shot from there. But it's going to take some plays down the stretch too.
Yeah, without a doubt. And there's no question in my mind that this Georgia defense is as good as advertised, right? People could talk about their schedule. They've played some pretty good football teams, not a bunch of great football teams. The SEC strength is overplayed, especially as you get down into the conference a little bit. The fifth best Big Ten team can beat the fifth best SEC team. What's the SEC now in bowl games, by the way, guys? 0-4?
0-4 as of this recording, yeah.
Right. So, So this is not one of those. It's not a generational defense. Now, they are a touchdown better than anybody who's second, so they are very good. But in my opinion, Michigan's going to have some success moving the ball. And they've done, Josh Gaddis and Sharon Moore and those guys have done a great job this year scouting teams and putting up points on whoever they played for the most part, with the exception of Penn State. And they did enough there. So great complimentary football. That's what it's going to take again tomorrow night. I'm guessing Jake Moody's going to be big, and the kickers, or not tomorrow night, but Friday night, whatever. It's going to be a blast, guys. And AB, wish you were here with us, brother. I really do.
Well, never say never. I could start driving right after we stop recording here, and I'll.
Okay.
Well, nah.
Hop on that Dax Hill plane, man. Hop on that Dax.
Well, let's plan for Indianapolis like the team is what I say.
Absolutely, that's exactly right.
No question. So I don't know exactly when it's going to come out, but how do you guys see the game going? I mean, I have Michigan winning this game. I won't give my final score in case staff picks is after this, but I like the matchup. I like the Michigan quarterbacks better. I think it's going to be tight, and Cade could win the game late. He just has not gotten phased this year late in some of those games, always makes the play, even after a turnover and things like that. And I like this Michigan's defense's matchup against the Georgia offense. Even though they got a couple weapons, including Bowers, I feel pretty good about this. Not so confident in my pick, but I think it's pretty much a toss-up either way, and I'll go with Michigan, at least to cover that spread. I think 7.5 is too big.
Buddy, I usually get one game wrong a year. Or this year, I think I've got 3 wrong. I don't have a finger on the pulse of this team, and I'd love to say, okay, I think, all right, they've proven me wrong. I think Georgia's the best team in the country still because of their defense. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, and I think Georgia's going to find a way to pull it out and set up a rematch with Alabama. Unfortunately, it'll be maybe 3-4 point game, but I think Michigan will give them a good game, and it could go either way. So it's just one of those things where the gut feeling tells me that Georgia's just going to have a little bit too much at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I'm torn on this too. I on an earlier hit, I predicted that Michigan would win. I still feel that way. I haven't locked in on a score though. But again, it's just one of those things where, if you think this is going to be a tight game into the fourth quarter, to me it just comes down to, which quarterback are you most confident in? Like for Cade McNamara and Stetson Bennett, for all their warts, who's going to be the guy that makes the play that determines the game? I've seen Cade McNamara lead game-winning drives this year. He's done it a couple times, and I've seen them when Michigan has the lead and needs to score. I've seen him lead drives where they can extend the lead and close out games and things like that. So I don't think it's going to be pretty, but I just got this weird feeling, and maybe it could just be optimism that I haven't seen my last football game in person this year. Mm-hmm. I just have a feeling that this team is going to be playing on January 10th. So I'm going Michigan. It will be, I certainly will have them covering, seeing as they're winning. I think if you're a betting person, the under is probably a good play in this game, but we'll see what the odds look like on Friday. But I do have Michigan winning. And like I said, it could go either way. And at the end of the day, I don't want to say whatever happens from here is gravy, but the story on this team has largely been written, and it's a pretty good story. It could be a great story. They can keep pushing it forward. But whatever happens Friday, I think that we'll be proud of how this team performed this year.
What's the over under, about 45? I would guess.
45 and a half. Yeah.
Okay.
Last I saw, I thought it was 43 and a half.
Okay.
Did
it move?
Okay. Either way, it's right. You knew it was going to be right there. So,
yeah.
Yep.
And again, it'll be right there. It'll be something like 24-20 or something like that, I would imagine.
It is 45 and a half.
So. Okay. There you go.
And for the people out there, we are recording this on Wednesday afternoon. So in case of any Dax news / that's why I also said about the staff picks thing. So stay tuned for all of that at thewolverine.com. Chris has had a couple updates on that already. And I didn't get kicked out of this ballroom either, so pretty good success there. Manscaped is the place to go to. We appreciate our sponsor. 20Go Blue is the promo code there for 20% off and free shipping. And we will see everybody over on the Fort, our message board, $1 for an entire year at thewolverine.com.